welcome back to the Whatnauts review show number 250. Little milestone for us today. If you guys did not know, each week here on the show, we have a different story to talk about. Could be a comic, a movie, an anime, a manga, a TV show, all sorts of stuff. We read it, we watch it, we come back here, and we talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa,
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. We had a lot of stormy weather here in St. Louis this weekend. Did you get those same storms in Oklahoma City?
Kind of, not
Okay.
really. We are in that period where it's really rapidly going back and forth. It's tornado season. We have a day this next week that's supposed to get up to 87, but it's also supposed to be windy and rainy and stuff like that. And it's just like, oh yeah, we're right in the middle of tornado season. That's fun. Who knows if we'll live? Cool. Hope you survived the experience.
Right. Welcome to the Midwest. This is only your second spring living in the Midwest, and this is how it goes. Like,
yes,
not to not pay respects to the serious damage that tornadoes and other severe storms can cause to property, landscape, and life. But Midwest summer storms just like fuel us. That's our power. We stand out there on the porch and just like point at all the green clouds. We have a great time.
Yeah, exactly.
But during all these storms, my roommate and I put on the movie Bodies, which takes place during a hurricane. It's about all these rich kids that hole up in a mansion to have a hurricane party. And then they play a murder mystery game. And then people start actually getting murdered. But when the power goes out.
I know there's like the younger kids. It's Pete Davidson who's in that, right?
Yes.
Wasn't there some actor that I was just completely baffled at why they're in that movie?
Yes, the one adult, one of the girls has brought her much older boyfriend, Lee Pace.
What? Why is
Review
Lee
show
Pace in
favorite
this?
Lee Pace. He's great. It is definitely worth watching for him. We had a great time. It's a real snappy 93 minutes. There's a really interesting twist in it. I sincerely think you would enjoy Bodies. But when the power goes out in the movie, like one of the girls is covered in glow sticks. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have glow sticks. So my roommate and I sat there and watched it in the dark with I had like glow stick glasses.
Amazing.
It's got little plastic connectors. You've seen these. I put these on for Halloween once.
Yeah.
So we're just sitting there in pitch darkness watching the movie through glow sticks.
Good stuff. I went to go see Renfield yesterday, and I know you're going to go see it after we're done recording this. But I had a great time with that. It was a lot of fun for sure. But I say we may move on to what we're here to talk about this week.
Yes, it's very appropriate that you said we are celebrating a milestone. Truly, this is the title with which to celebrate any milestone.
Yes, indeed. This week here on the podcast, we are talking about the Flintstones, the comics from, I think, like 2016, 2017, written by Mark Russell, art by Steve Pugh, published by DC Comics. These are brilliant ones. I cannot say enough good things about them, but the reason that we are talking about them here today for our little 250th episode, I thought it would be fun to go back in time to Bedrock, to go back in time here at the Whatnauts and cover something that, well, all right, so to give a little bit of context, when the Whatnauts first started, we only had one podcast, and it was called, you guessed it, the Whatnauts podcast.
Yes.
And it was essentially this show here that you're listening to today, book club style podcast. Each week did something new, yada, yada, yada. And so I thought it'd be fun to bring some of my favorite things from way back on that show back up into this show, which is also kind of what these comics are doing, essentially. This old IP and modernizing them a little bit more. And yeah, I pitched a number of things. This is the one that you picked. Melissa, what made you want to pick the Flintstones here?
I've heard such good things about it from you and from everyone who has brought it up. It is one of the titles that I feel like I really missed out on not getting to cover in your original incarnation of the show. Like,
Yeah.
if you hadn't already done it, I would have pitched this years ago. I think this concept is so interesting. And I love that there's a series of these. Like, this is also
Yep.
the author who did the Snagglepuss, like, Southern Gothic drama comic series.
Yeah, which also sounds amazing.
We got to do that one.
Yeah, eventually we will make our way there. I don't remember if they had like some Jetsons ones. I think they did. But then yeah, there's the one that's also kind of tangentially in there, the Scooby apocalypse. It's like, what if Scooby-Doo was in the middle of the apocalypse?
Yes.
Which I think is also a fun one. But yeah, I remember as these were coming out, listening to podcasts and just hearing people rave and just be like, this is so great, it's incredible, it's so funny. And then I was like, it was enough that I had to be like, okay, let me check this out for myself. Like, I need to go look this up and see what all the hubbub is. And yeah, we read them on the show years and years and years ago. And if you couldn't tell, Melissa was not yet a part of the show. So I covered it with different hosts. And yeah, we just had a blast reading these books. They're so much fun. They're lighthearted. They're funny. There's a joke every 2 seconds.
Yes.
And it's great. So yeah, I'm glad we got to bring these ones up here.
I really enjoyed them more than I thought I would, even because I knew they were going to be very satirical, and sometimes I don't take satire well. It just makes me feel bad. But these books are also so silly.
Yes,
so silly. like I knew I was in good hands, that like there was enough sugar to like make all the biting criticism go down real smooth. When Wilma's at an art show of like handprint cave print art, and some hipster comes up to her holding a twig between his fingers, and he says, "Mind if I vape?"
It's like there's dumb stuff like that, but like you said, there is some biting criticism, some great satire within this, and some very poignant moments of actual seriousness. There are some emotional moments in here that you're just like, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it that way. Or even just the Flintstones, and because like that is their whole shtick is they are the modern Stone Age family, right? That was like, it's not. I said that these comics were modernized, but I mean modernized in a sense that like we really only like just made them fit for like the year 20 something.
Yeah,
right, because like that's what they were doing back in the 50s. Like, it's the same kind of satire. Like, that was the whole premise of the show. Or even not at like satire per se, but just like they're just like you. They go to work. They shop at the mall. They go bowling. They go get drinks with the guys at the bar, right? And to bring them up into 2020, we're in 2023 when we're covering this one now. But yeah, like they have just such a great way of doing it. But I also don't think that the satire is so sharp or so poignant that you'll get lost in it, or it's not a big philosophical treatise on politics or religion or anything like that. They do have some nice points, They have points on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
It's good variety, so it consistently moves around and changes. But that is maybe my one critique of the book, is that it unfortunately does not go in super deep with all of the stuff, and I kind of would like it to at certain times. But yeah, I had a blast reading these. These were great.
They're not structured the way I thought they would be. I think reading the author's introduction, and he's talking about all the different topics he wanted to tackle, I was under the impression that it would be like, this is the war issue. This is the consumerism issue. This is the politics issue.
And
but
it kind of is, but it's not so defined that it's like you will only get everything about consumerism in this one thing. Yeah.
It's less episodic and more sketchy, vignette-y. Like it jumps around a lot. There's all these little scenes, sometimes a page. It's just like one of the 30 pages or whatever that's in a particular issue, but it also operates like a Sunday Funnies comic.
Yep.
Like it's just from panel 1 to the final panel on the page, like its own self-contained gag that might be like in a whole separate part of the story from everything else. I like that structure a lot. It really keeps you moving around, keeps things fresh.
Cool. Well, let's do a quick plot synopsis, and then we can get into some housekeeping. And
the Flintstones, you've heard of them.
Yeah. But then once we get done with housekeeping, we will dive into spoilers and all of that good stuff. So yeah, plot. Well, this book is kind of light on plot. It is the Flintstones. But that is the thing. Like, how do kids these days know? Are they aware of the Flintstones outside of vitamins? If that.
I will have to check in with my niece. I will show her a picture.
This makes me feel so old. New kids don't even know what the Flintstones are.
But they were a weird throwback for us, even. Like, we lived in an era of, Turner Networks has got all these hours of programming to fill. Let's rerun old Flintstones. And then we had the live action John Goodman movie. And certain things are from that era, from that like 60s Hanna-Barbera timeline, are still in the zeitgeist today. Kids know who Scooby-Doo is. Other things are coming or are being revived or still continue in one way or another. I don't know if there's actively anything for Flintstones, and I don't know if there needs to be anything for Flintstones. Like, if kids today don't know what the Flintstones are, I'm not sure if that is a great cultural loss. Like, maybe when the kids grow up, maybe when they're like 10 instead of 6. And they get really into animation and they want to learn about cartoon history. Like, what did my parents watch when they were kids? What did my grandparents watch when they were kids? Like, then they can discover the Flintstones and be like Flintstones hipsters when they're like 10 years old.
I feel like the Flintstones is an IP to bring out like every so often and not want to like constantly reiterate on like Scooby-Doo. You can just do a mystery a week. You can just be like, okay, here's a show where they're all kids. Here's his weird cousin Scrappy that no one likes.
Nephew?
Here's I don't know. But I feel like constantly doing that to the Flintstones maybe kind of is just like, all right, we've already seen all of this stuff. Maybe again in 50 years, right? Like, but
put it away in the vault. It is truly a time capsule.
Exactly. But all that being said,
lock it into sync with a particular comet. Every 26 years, we get a Flintstones reboot, according to the
Bedrock
stars.
Comet. Yeah. But like all that said, it's the Flintstones. You know them, you love them.
Yeah,
it's Fred and Wilma and Pebbles and Barney and all of them. They're all there. Even the Great Gazoo is here in this. And yeah, the story kind of follows all of these characters around as they are figuring out society, figuring out civilization. It seems like Bedrock has been around for a little bit, but not super long. Like civilization is a fairly recent concept, and so they're going to the mall, or their version of Home Depot, which I forget exactly what they called it.
Oh, they have like a Target store called Tar Pit. They go to Outback Snakehouse.
Exactly. But while they're at these places, like, they're constantly discovering new things that they haven't seen, like a lawnmower or a weed eater, right? They're just like, what are weeds? Why do I need to care about this? And so that, like, you see them buying all of these new consumer products. You see them at work trying to make money to buy all that stuff or make their partners happy. You see them in their leisure time as they are trying to make art and sell it and just express themselves and connect to their families and their pasts, as well as the communities around them. They're trying to understand religion, politics, all of that good stuff. And it plays out in some really interesting ways that I think are just so much fun. I remember particularly liking the stuff about Fred and Barney being vets. I liked the religious stuff that was going on there, down to the bit where they're like having to make a sign on their stuff and things can't fit, so they're like abbreviating things, and just like, oh, okay, clever, I see what you're doing. But yeah, it is a mile a minute with the jokes. There's visual gags. You mentioned a few of the stores. It's just, it's always in there. There's always something to look at, always something to laugh at.
I love the art.
Kind of the plot.
The characters are really expressive. Like, you get so much enjoyment out of just Mr. Slate's face. Just the way people look, the way they react. Very fun.
We even get cameos from like famous actors.
This is what I love, though, is that it is not at all timely people. You get cameos from Stony Danza and Werner Herzog. Like, they did not go for like the hot stars of the time when this comic was being written. They just grabbed random people out of the past. They're like,
it's not like
these are the puns we like
on Beyonce or Rihanna or whoever. Yeah, it's Werner Herzog. God, yeah. But yeah, I would highly recommend this book. It's only 12 issues. Yeah. The deluxe edition that we read also included a 13th issue that was a Booster Gold meets the Flintstones thing, and it's just kind of this apocryphal tale that follows Booster. I don't think I'm really gonna say much about it in our spoiler stuff, but it's in the deluxe one. I'm surprised that I don't own this book yet, at least on my shelf, but this is one that I absolutely would like. I think a nice hardcover of this would be great. But yeah, that I think is all I have to say on the Flintstones. That is spoiler free. Do you have any kind of last minute stuff, or should we get on to housekeeping?
Let's do it. Let's keep that house. Our house made entirely out of rocks.
Yeah, let's do it. We will be right back. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. Right. Welcome back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We love you. We appreciate you a lot. It means a ton. If you are at the $3 tier and higher, you get access to the Pilots Club. This month we covered Bob Patterson, which is just an odd little show. I'm fascinated by the history of this show. They made 10 episodes. They only aired like 5 of them, which means it only lasted like a month. And then of the ones they didn't air, they lost a few of them. They just you can't find them. They're not out there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we got to watch the pilot of that, and what an interesting time that is. It is a good one. I can give you a sneak peek at what we will be doing next month, and it is the pilot for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which is a fun one. I'm watching that show with my partner right now, and it is spectacular. It is so good. Highly recommend just watching that whole show. It's out all on Disney Plus right now. I thought it was gonna be like, I thought it was airing like week by week on there, but I guess it's just all on there. I don't know. But yeah, it's fantastic. So that is what we're up to over on the Pilots Club. Right here on the review show this past week, we watched Super Mario Bros. Yes, the 1993 video game adaptation that is just a
fever
wild time. Yeah, it's a fever dream for sure. But the new animated Mario movie was also out that same week. So we thought, you know what? Why not? Especially after we had just watched Arcane the week before, which is a like highly acclaimed video game adaptation show. We had to turn around and be like, let's look at one of the worst. So that was good. That was fun. Go check that out. Over on the Reactor Core, we got our reaction to the Marvels trailer. You guys can go take a look at that. And then later on today, Melissa and I are returning to the Yellow Jackets, and we will be covering episodes 3 and 4 of season 2. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, over on the Captain's Log, caught up with a bunch of Star Wars news, pop culture news. It was mostly Star Wars just stuff, since Star Wars Celebration happened last weekend. But yeah, go check out all of that good stuff. Lots of fun things here at the Whatnauts that we do. Lots of fun things. That being said, let me hit the button for spoilers. Let's get into spoilers on the Flintstones, which is a weird thing to say. I don't feel like I ever would have thought in a million years that at some point in my life I would have said this sentence. Let's talk about spoilers for the Flintstones.
Right. He wins the big bowling game.
Actually, he does not.
The best.
That's the spoiler. That's it. That's the spoiler. He doesn't win.
He loses
at bowling.
Because his armadillo bowling ball turns on him and tries to have a coup.
Yeah. Tries to stand up for himself here. So, Melissa, let me ask you this then. Since I've already read this and discussed it on an older podcast, let's start with you. Where do you want to start? What stood out to you? What were you expecting, not expecting? I don't know.
I talked about how the story is not as it doesn't like have individual stories about individual topics. Like it kind of does, but there's so much like mashed together. It is very sort of slice of life, except for like when aliens show up sometimes. Like there's these themes that sort of run and intertwine throughout the whole story. Like I said, it's not like in this issue we tackle gender politics. Just here we do it. Yeah, I liked that there's always a lot going on. It's a very busy book, but you know, it's just like little mundane life details. So the busyness like never overwhelms you. You're never lost.
For sure.
You know who all these people are.
Yeah.
And I did like the really close look at who are the Flintstones as people. Like one of the things that the story hinges on is it's not like, is humanity good? That is a question it asks. Is humanity good? Is civilization good? But it takes a look at Fred Flintstone, the man, like the Great Gazoo, when he has to show Earth to the rest of the aliens, the neighborhood association, the sort of governing alien overlords who will decide if Earth gets to exist or not. And they're going to like scan the brain of an Earthling as a test. The Great Gazoo's like, no, pick Fred. Fred's a good average man. And it's something you've never really thought about before.
Dino? I thought that was the like you're expecting him to pick Fred. Of like, oh yeah, because like you just saw him like save that one dude at the quarry who got trapped in a cave in,
right?
Like all that stuff, and you think like, oh yeah, he's the good guy. Like he just wants to like please his wife and like give her money so she can go buy things and be happy and fulfilled, wants to take care of his daughter, help people, like do good at his job, and then yet at the same time you have the neighborhood association like this mud ball, they barely have technology, like what is this stuff, and then like you also see the like other the like hipsters move into the neighborhood, and they're like being mean and petty, and the politics are warlike, down with the lizard people and stuff like that, and you're just like, oh, I hope he picks Fred. And then like you see who like walks out of the test, and it's Dino. It's that like there was absolutely like no bad thoughts in this guy's mind, and it's just like, oh, good move.
I'm going to flip past that page too fast, because in that around that time Dino is just sort of running around being rambunctious. Like if he sees something he likes on the TV, he will ram straight into the TV. I think I read it too fast, and I thought the gag was Dino just like ramming into spaces he's not supposed to be in.
They kind of lose him for a second, but I think that happens off panel. Where they're just like, hey, I can't find Dino. Like, where is he? And then the Great Gazoo at the end brings him back, and they're like, oh, you found him. So I think it's because so much is happening within all of these books here that it's just, like they just didn't have the one panel where it's like, we took him, right? But yeah, that is the thing. You're still right that they are taking a look at him to just be like, he's a good guy.
Yeah, there's a look at Fred as a good man, not necessarily asking, is Fred Flintstone a good man, but it's stating he is good, and this is how he is good, which is something that never enters your mind when you're watching the Flintstones. You never think of Fred like you watch the show, you chuckle, you know, it's pleasant. It's been around forever, so these guys feel like aunts and uncles to you, but you never think, God, I'm fond of Fred. I love Fred. Fred is good. I look up to Fred. And this story really makes you look at this man and look at the quality of his character, and do this for the whole cast. Like it really adds a lot of dimension onto Wilma, who was just wife. W for Wilma, W for wife. This is how you remember what her role is.
Yeah. Sure. Yep.
I think that's my favorite thing in the book is what they do with her. I like that they choose to make her a struggling artist. Like she does paintings. She does like handprint on the wall, just like all the ancient cave art we've seen in textbooks. Like that's her like new art style she's working through. is these handprints. And she has this really lovely story about why the handprints mean something to her, why that is her medium, why this is how she chooses to work. And she's
Yeah.
struggling to get her art, like getting taken seriously in galleries, getting taken seriously by the art community, trying to make a profit out of it, be able to like bring money home for her family the way Fred does. I really liked that approach to her character, and it makes sense. Wilma has always been so stylish. Like, even as a
Oh,
little
yeah.
kid, I think subconsciously you look at her with the updo and the pearls and the like white pencil dress. Like, she looks really classy.
She's stylish. Yeah.
Yeah, she looks stylish. She looks smart. She looks savvy. And I like that they kind of took that look to her and sort of extrapolated from that. Like, maybe she is just a very artsy person. Yeah. So let's show her trying to get an art career started.
Yeah. Which is an interesting thing because like I think that style, that outfit for her is supposed to speak more to, she's the housewife, right? She's the 50s housewife with like doing the dishes and dusting and vacuuming while still having her pearl necklace on and in, right? And like there is like that I think is one of the things that amazes me about this book is that every little thing is considered and has detail and has a joke or something, right? Has some kind of substance. And yeah, she is an artist. It's not necessarily a new art style, the hand stuff, because they all know cave paintings. That's where their history came from. But it is her, like it has personal meaning to her, right? Like it's like trying to establish yourself as an artist and all you do is still lifes. It's like, sure, you can be good at still life, but you're really not gonna stand out easily. But there might be some personal connection to you, and so that's why you enjoy it and you're satisfied with your art, or you find fulfillment. And I like she has that tied, but then when she goes to the gallery opening and she has to pick an outfit, she picks this like wild looking outfit, this like avant-garde looking thing, and she's like, this is the only one that looks like an artist would wear it, and I don't feel right in it. Like she has this like imposter syndrome of just like, I don't feel comfortable in this. Like, this is not me. This is not who I am. And I forget what she ends up wearing to that. But yeah, it like I just like that. Like she still even struggles in that. Like she has those kinds of insecurities and stuff, which is very relatable.
Yeah.
But she's still super stylish in her pearls and like white dress. Because it's a classic look. It's an iconic look, right?
Man, that's what I want to look like when I grow up.
Once
I become a wife, that's the outfit I get. That is my wife uniform. It's the
Melissa, dress for the job you want, right? Which is what they do in the book too. Like, hey, Fred, why do you wear a tie and no one else does? He's like, I want to be management. Dress for the job you want.
Yeah, I like how much time we also spend with Fred at work. Like, Mr. Slade is kind of teasing him with these different promotions if Fred like does certain things, jumps through certain hoops. Like they bring in these new Cro-Magnon, I think, employees who are a less evolved life form, so their labor is cheaper. And he's trying to convert the workforce to the Cro-Magnons, I believe. So he's like, this is issue 1. He's like, Fred, take these guys out in the town, show them a good time. They're new in town, and then tomorrow we're going to start working with them. And yeah, Fred's really trying to impress Mr. Slate. He wants to move up in the world. You see how long he's been doing it? He's been like, a good barometer of time is that in this story, Pebbles and Bam Bam are middle schoolers. They are not toddlers.
Sure,
so it's like, wow, he's been working for Mr. Slate like since he had this baby. So it's like 12, 13 years. He's wearing the tie. He's trying to get that promotion. He's doing everything he can to try and impress Mr. Slate. Like he's got a bit of a more specific struggle than just the general 1960s. Well, I know It's a Living is what like all the little animal appliances said, but Fred seemed frequently exasperated at his job. Like the bird toots, he slides down the dinosaur's tail. It's quitting time. Who cares?
He does his yabba dab doos, and he's on his way.
I also like seeing that yabba dabba do is like a mantra that he learned in like veteran counseling to like sort of center himself and find peace.
It's the modern day or the Stone Age equivalent of Serenity Now from Seinfeld. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing that I think really amazes me and really impresses me. It's just that it's literally everything has some kind of explanation. Like they don't miss a beat. Like, you remember like him saying yabba dabba doo. Here's the explanation behind that, and it's a critique. It's it's some satirical thing of society that like it all fits, and it like none of it ever truly feels shoehorned in. And I think part of that is also because it never really goes too deep into anything. It's always moving on to something else. But at the same time, I like it that every little thing was taken into account and is considered, from the part-time jobs that Pebbles and Bam Bam gets to all the signs, the stores, the stuff that's happening in politics. I love the whole like the whole like, what is marriage? And they go on this like marriage retreat, and that's treated like they take the whole like certain Christians don't like gay marriage and all that stuff, and they take that, but what if it was marriage instead? Like just the idea of and they just flip the whole thing, and it works. It's great. It's entertaining. It's so much fun. I love that the two gay people in the comic, of course, are named Adam and Steve.
Yes.
Which is great.
I think the marriage issue is for the thematic satirical aspect of this series. I think that's my favorite one because it's so specific to this prehistoric society where everybody's grown up in sex caves. Like you said, a big sex cave, everybody's mating with each other, it's sort of these big amalgamated families. And the concept of monogamy is new, and very few people are doing it. Like you've got Fred and Wilma, and you've got Barney and Betty, but you learn that they don't know that many other couples in their life, and that people are still like married to one person your whole life. You just have two parents and a kid. I grew up with like 7 dads, 16 moms. We all lived in a cave together. There were 20 kids.
It was great. It worked fine back then, right? Yeah. That whole marriage retreat thing is fantastic. I like that there also is the like older married couple who are the early adopters.
Yes.
Right. And they
when marriage didn't work yet.
Yeah, and they do the thing where they're just bickering the entire time.
They felt like they felt like what sitcoms in the 1960s were. Like they felt like lifted right out of the contemporary television age when the Flintstones first existed.
Yeah. Or even like in extrapolation of that. Like it is the husband and wife of those shows, but those shows often depicted them as a more perfect couple. Like it was the white picket fence. There were some stuff that had the like little arguments here and there, but this seems like they took that like, okay, what if we fast forward in 20 years down the road and the like arguments are ratcheted up? And yeah, it worked. And then of course they do the thing where at the end she's just like my hero, and they're making out
Yes.
on the
Mhm.
lawn there. It's fantastic. It's great. Yeah, and I also like that it's like there's a reason why the Flintstones are monogamous. It's also like one that Fred is, he's just satisfied. Like
Yes.
he does not need anything else. Like his needs are being met in all sorts of different ways, and he's happy with that. Like he's not being like, well, the right thing to do here is like we need to go make more babies and increase
Yeah.
the population and do all that stuff because that's the right
Mm.
manly thing to go do. He's just like, I'm fine. Like I'm happy with what I have.
Mhm.
And then you also learn Wilma's backstory is that she came from a family of like hunters and gatherers, and they were this like nomadic people, and then they kind of figured out agriculture. Like if we plant seeds along our normal path, there'll be food here next year. And then they start to do that, and they're like, why do we need to keep moving? Like what if we settle down? And then they start to settle, and then it's like, well, I'll start trading you 2 goats for this and 3 goats for that and 2 chickens for that.
Mhm.
And she gets married off to someone at a young
Well,
age. She's
she
about
gets yes.
two, and she runs away. She's like, I'm having none of that. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that specific look at I don't know if we really see like how they meet their courtship, but I liked that origin story for the two of them and their past growing up in their different environments. Like we see that Fred was part of again another nomadic tribe, and when he's talking about how Adam and Steve should be allowed to get married just the way him and Wilma got married even if they are not producing children, he shares this memory of dude, just the whole tribe like struggling to physically move across the landscape. Like there's all these craggy rocks and mountains and everything they have to traverse. And, like it shows his mom pushing him up a rock, and then Adam and Steve are grabbing him, like, don't worry, we got little Freddie. We're here to help you. And what a bond that they had that was strong and supporting, and they were there to help the rest of the community and help everybody who did have kids. And you can see how that
yeah.
lends itself to him wanting to have this very sort of stable, locked down, supportive household with like him and Wilma and Pebbles, and helping out Barney and Betty and Bam Bam over there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting way to kind of frame the, this is a weird thing to say, like the purpose of gay relationships. I don't know if that's the right thing to say. But yeah, he was like, most of the men like went out and
Mm.
hunted. So at the end of the day, there's really no one there protecting, quote unquote, the women, right, or helping the kids move up these large mountains or through
Mm.
these dangerous spaces. On top of that, they're the ones out there like gathering all of the plants and the berries and all that. Like they have other responsibilities. They needed more help to do this stuff. So people like Adam and Steve, which I again, one thing I think the book does well, especially in this moment here, is it's not saying, but the gay people could help out and do this specific role.
Yeah.
It is just like just people who aren't interested in having kids is the way
Yes.
they framed it. Was like they
Yeah.
could stay back. They didn't have to like go on this hunt. They could do right, like they didn't have to follow the traditional
Hmm.
masculine or feminine like gender norms, gender
Hmm.
roles, or what have you. Like they could help out in whatever way they could help out. Like that was fine, and it
Hmm.
worked. Like it's what we needed. So I think that is a good thing. But yeah, um, I want to talk about the Great Gazoo because
Okay.
I this is one of my favorite bits in the book. 'Cause most of the book you don't have a narrator per
Hmm.
se. But there are a few issues where the Great Gazoo is narrating. And throughout the book, you get a number of different alien species visiting the planet. There's one where it's just a bunch of like spring breakers.
Yeah.
And they
space
just like
break!
Yeah,
Space break!
And they
Right,
just
and
they
I
go
love-
and drink and do drugs and throw
Which
up in
is-
people's houses and just they don't care about anything.
It's
happening
really
there.
funny in that it's, you know exactly what it is, but there's not it's not particularly sharp. Like, I don't think spring break is a serious social problem that the world debates every spring. Like, it just sort of is. It just sort of happens. So I
Well, I
like
mean,
that we
it's-
got
it's
this look
even
at something
the
very real that didn't have like an extra lesson onto it.
Right, like I mean, like you can look at it in the sense of like there are towns anywhere outside of the United States that people like us might go to vacation or something like that, and we just like Americans are loud, they're boisterous. They don't know much outside of the America, right? And so like that can kind of be the perception of us, or like it doesn't even have to be Americans, but whenever you go to a foreign place and are just being loud, being obnoxious, doing just not understanding the culture, right? Not like fitting in that way. It's an interesting look at tourism and like escapism in that sense, in a way. I'm not sure that I have the right words to fully do all of that, but yeah, like I understand that like there are places out there like Cabo, right, that just like you can go to your resort that's there, but also you can like so I've been to Cabo. I was on the younger side, so I didn't really know anything about the culture there, all of that stuff. I'll be honest, one of the things that I did hear, I think looking back on now, probably wasn't accurate or wasn't the greatest thing. But I also don't know how true it was, of just like, stay on your resort. Don't go outside of it, really. Because once you get outside of it, there's some dangerous things happening. They eat this, they drink that, don't do like... Right. And it's just like, that's probably some racism happening right there. That's probably just some, I don't understand the culture. But also, it's just like space break. that was the joke. Like that was it. So like it's just, I'm fascinated that every detail has something. But like I said too, like there's also not, it sometimes feels like there's not enough. Like they don't go deep into each of the topics. Did you ever feel that way?
Yeah, I could have used a little bit more of the Great Gazoo. Like he's sort of put on Earth as a monitor, almost like this is like a nature preserve that they're monitoring. Like, you're the park ranger of Earth, Great Gazoo. Just sort of watch over everybody. Make sure nobody steals the picnic basket. You know what a park ranger does. He doesn't interact with the characters very much. Like, he doesn't really talk. He monitors Fred. He doesn't really talk with Fred.
Yeah, and like I wish there was more of him in there. I wish there was some deeper, sharper critiques in this book of all sorts of stuff. But I think the book works really well as just 12-ish issues. That's it. I think if it was longer than that, or it tried to keep going, that's when I think the style and the format of what they were doing maybe falls apart. So thankfully they did not do that stuff. But yes, I loved the Great Gazoo. I liked that he is your like stereotypical, like, is humanity good? Like, I kind of need to prove to my higher ups that they're fine. Like, they might not be the smartest, they might not be the toughest or the strongest, but they're fine. They're interesting. They're fascinating.
Mhm.
He even has some critiques, which is also, this is a weird thing to say for the Flintstones. This is what good sci-fi does,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I don't see the Flintstones as sci-fi, but the inclusion of the Great
Mhm.
Gazoo oddly kind of makes it sci-fi.
Yeah.
Right, where it is this like one step removed of like, let's look at humanity but through a different lens here. And
Mhm.
he has that. I mean, it's one step removed, not in that like, let's look at a society of aliens and like
Mhm.
these green skinned men and see how they live. We're not so different, you and I, right? It's not that, but he is this like third party observer being like, okay, you guys do this, but why do you do this? When like the survival of your species depends on X and Y, but you're not
Mhm.
like, you're at odds. But like, he has these interesting observations of this very objective point of view
Mhm.
of humanity. Like, hey, to be your bet, like to survive and do all this stuff, you need to mate and make more babies and do all that stuff. You need to do this and that, but you guys make art which has no
Yeah.
meaning, and do
Yes.
this and that. You have a leisure class, you buy things you don't need, you do that, like.
Mhm.
And yeah, he just had some interesting observations in there. But I like that he is also then going back to like report back to space Las Vegas of like, what are
Yeah.
the betting odds that this planet
Yes.
survives?
And I like that it looks like a mishmash of all these different worldly buildings because that's what Vegas is. Like you
Right?
have a
Yeah,
little Empire State Building and a little
Eiffel
Eiffel Tower
Tower.
and a
Yeah,
little pyramid. Like they don't have to change it. They just got to put a sci-fi gloss over existing Vegas.
yeah. It's good. I like it a lot. Um, yeah,
Uh,
he's fun. I was kind of wondering if that's how the that Booster Gold story was gonna work, that somehow he knew about stuff happening in the future or something, but no, it's a whole time travel thing.
yeah.
Yeah, so oh well.
I One of my favorite supporting characters is Professor Sargon, who Pebbles and Bam Bam at school have a science lesson that's taught by just Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan with a prehistoric, like, buckskin turtleneck.
Yep.
And he's not just there for like one panel or one page. He exists. He's one of the townspeople. You keep seeing Professor Sargon.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, like I like, yeah, I mean, it's neat that they have these part-time jobs. I like the role that science is playing in their
Yeah.
community too. They are discovering new things, and I think it also fits in with the plots about religion too, because
Yes.
of course people like to pit the two against one another. Well, God says this and explains it
Mhm.
one way, but science says this one thing. And like they really kind of explain science and what the purpose of science is in this. I think really nicely.
Yeah.
Like I forget exactly what he says. Do you remember? But it's something like, you like, it's not about knowing the specific thing or
Mhm.
all the answers. It's about like making the best guess, and then when you
Right.
get
Yeah.
more info, making another best guess.
Yeah, it's about
At this
changing,
stuff.
not like sticking with your original guess. The way perhaps like it's which is something that even like the church doesn't do. Like the when we first see the concept of religion in this world, it's like Zorp. People worship Zorp, and then people are questioning, like, well, what's the point of Zorp? What does Zorp do for me? And you see this church that like like kind of understands church but doesn't have a deity. Like they don't know what to believe yet. Like that doesn't exist to them. So it's these guys like brainstorming, what do the people need? And they end up with this sort of invisible presence who they named Gerald. And eventually they need to, and like that's the cap at the end of the story that you were talking about earlier, that they want to put this aphorism on the sign and they can't fit all the words. So instead of writing Gerald, they just write G-D, and that's how we get the concept of God from
Yeah.
Gerald. But those guys who run the church, it's like one guy and then another guy we sometimes see. I don't think they have names. We never like get to really identify them. They're just like the priests of Gerald. But they're kind of I like that those guys were pretty nice. And like there's the bit where that really rich lady comes to them and says, "I think I did something wrong. I want to make things right with Gerald." And the priest is like, "Well, maybe you could help us serve coffee to parishioners on Sunday." And she's like, "I'm too busy. Can I just like give you some money and you do it? But like that makes me right with Gerald." So then they start running that scheme, but like it wasn't their idea. She just handed them the money and they're like, "Oh boy." But they still say they stay humble. It's not like then you see the priest with a giant gold watch or whatever. Like I like that those guys were continually like really trying to encourage people, trying to give them something that would give them peace of mind, trying to figure things out. Like they weren't necessarily, even though you see them trying to invent a thing for everybody to come to this building and worship and maybe give them a little money, they don't seem like charlatans. Like they don't seem like shysters. They seem like they are sincerely trying to provide a service to the people that they think the people need. And I really love when you see the priest like talking to this old woman on her deathbed, and she's like, "I guess I'm going to be with Gerald now." And he's like holding her hand and like looking at her really warmly. And it's the comparison between like the priest of Gerald and Professor Sargon. And it's science helps us learn what to believe. The religion helps us know why we believe anything, why we believe in the concept of believing, like just that we have something that keeps us going through life. Like it doesn't matter what it is. It could be Zorp, it could be Gerald. You just need to have that propulsion in your life, and that's what they're figuring out, that religion, like that's the need they saw, and that's what they're trying to give to the people. And I thought that was a very empathetic way to look at it.
Yeah. The book never gets so cynical about certain things, like with the contribution tithing kind of stuff. Like you could easily see that, like, okay, let's take a more cynical look at the church and just start blasting it and just be like, the church is bad, it's evil, it's that. But they stop just short of that, and they go like, yes, that is something that maybe some of them have discovered and maybe employ or take advantage of. But in the case of this book and what the book needs to do, like that's not what this book needs to do. Yeah, like you explained, they are just trying to provide some kind of service for the people, or some like to fill some need for those that need it. And like that is also something that I find interesting too, that it's not a like it's not a scathing critique on religion in the sense that like all this stuff is fake and like people who believe this, they're stupid, right? It's like, no, there's some people that they just need something like that for whatever reason, and that's okay. Like that, like if they want to believe that, they can, and from their perspective, if that's real to them, let them have that, right? Like but then there's people who also like want to go to science, but also science is ever changing. It's not so like it is always this one thing, this one way. Like we're constantly learning new things, and it will change and evolve, and the way things once were might not be what they are down the road. And I think you nailed it when you said it's an empathetic take on that. But it's not just church and religion too. It's also politics. Like it adeptly walks the line of talking about politics without being
Yeah.
so leaning to one side that it's like, okay, obviously this book is this one way. I think it's left leaning enough that is fairly obvious, but it is also not so scathing of a critique on right-wing stuff or left-wing stuff. Like it walks a fine line that is more so just about, like, at the end of the day, just be nice. Just be nice to people, right? Be empathetic.
Yes. I do like how the political storyline kind of wraps up, where they get like Zod the Destroyer. No, Zod the Destroyer is
Claude.
Superman's villain. Claude the Destroyer. I like that they look at him and they're like, gee, he's really living in his own fantasy world. All he wants to do is chase the lizard people. I love the continual foe of the lizard people. When we see them, they wear lizard masks and they lie on big platform rocks. They just do lizard things. They're not bothering you. Wilma, the filmmaker Werner Herzog sees some of her paintings and is like, I will get her to art direct my new film. Also, film itself is new. He's like the first director. They're just figuring out what film is. Yeah. So she helps him build this cave set. And they're like, if Claude is so lost in his own fantasy world, if he can't see the world the way it really is, let's literally put him in a set. He's in a set of an office. He's talking into like prop phones and stuff. He won't know the difference. So we're able to quietly like get the comptroller in there to actually make all the decision. And Claude is just like this, oblivious figurehead. That was like a connection between those two storylines I didn't see coming. It's silly, but this whole series is so silly. It works in the context of what's going on.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, like, that is the thing with politics too, is that they present this candidate, Claude, who is just a beefcake. Like,
yes, absolutely, Conan the Barbarian.
Oh yeah,
like this absolutely. Is the sword and sorcery look you've been looking
that I've
for.
Been hoping for.
Listen to this.
And his only like campaign thing is down with the lizard people. They are a threat. They will destroy us one day, because what are they really up to? We don't know. That they're just being weird. So let's destroy them before they're actually, taking our children or taking our land and stuff like that. And then is it Fred that like speaks up, or is it someone else?
Yes. I like took a picture of this page on my tablet because I thought it was really eloquent, where Claude has been wanting to put more money into defense, which is just dinosaur armor, cooler and cooler dinosaur armor. It's like they take money away from the children's hospital. And at an earlier point, Fred did have this really nice speech about like, what is the purpose of a man? A man's purpose is to impregnate the woman and breed more children and then keep those children safe. If we are not funding the children's hospital, what is the point of men? What else are we good for? Like, we have to be able to do that. And so they're taking money away from the children's hospital. Like, they cut the budget for like food and agriculture. So like, everybody's just eating Tarbies, which is their prehistoric Arby's. Fred doesn't have pension money. He has Arby's coupons. Like, Claude's slashing everything in the budget to pay for dinosaur armor. And Fred says, so like Claude's saying, how many ferns have lizard people stolen? Lizard people are Bedrock's enemies, and war costs money. This is why Claude closed hospital. This is why Claude cut spending. And then Fred says, yeah, they stole some ferns, but every day we do worse things to each other right here in Bedrock. The truth is, we're just weirded out by them. And for that, we turned our backs on sick children. For that, we traded our retirement for loose meat sandwiches. We take money out of our schools and make life harder for ourselves. And for what? To kill a few lizard people? If we're looking for places to cut back, then I say racism is the most expensive luxury we have.
Yeah.
Like, Fred's smart. Fred sees things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that in that speech, he includes himself in the like, we're weirded out by that. Like, he's not saying like, you guys are just weirded out by them. That's why you act this way. It's, I'm weirded out by them too. I don't understand them, but I know that like, that's just us being racist, right? Like, yeah, like I think they have, man, they have moments like that, little speeches or little monologues that every now and then just hit. And like it's just like, ooh, that is the sharper critique, or the like the just poignant statements. It's not, some of them aren't necessarily critiques, but just like, just information that I never really thought of that way. One of my favorites was when Professor Sargon first shows up at the school to give a speech and is explaining the universe, right? And he's like, just all these things out there came together to form our galaxy. And within our within our galaxy, all of the stuff that was inside that came together to form planets. The things on the planets came together to form plant life and animals and humans. And now humans are coming together to create society and civilization and towns and like all of that stuff. And he's like, this is a pattern. Like all of this stuff is happening because everything in the universe is lonely. And that was it. Like that was the end of the page. And it was just like, that was the end of the explanation. And it was just like, huh. Okay. Yeah. Well, he's not wrong. Like, right? I was just
that
like,
is such a theme. That's such a theme throughout the book. Like, that's one of the great things they do with Mr. Slate's character. Mr. Slate, who is we all remember Fred's boss from the show and from the live action John Goodman movie. Yeah. He's selfish. He's greedy. All he wants to do is make profit. Like, he sees his name on the sign, like Slate Quarry. And he's like, this is my legacy. I'll live forever if I keep this business thriving. He's so petty, but he is so lonely. Like, in the first issue, you see him invite everybody over for like a hot tub party. And then everybody leaves. And it's just him and his like turtle, Philip, this real slow old turtle who crawls around and like brings him stuff.
Cream. By that time he gets there, the ice cream's all melted. It's great.
He tries to trade up for a cool eagle, and in the end he just goes back to Philip because he loves Philip. Philip is patient and listens to him in his own way. Philip never reacts, but you can see Slate seeing that in Philip, patience and grace. And so that's why he loves Philip. But I also want to talk about the animals in this story. Please. Like, because we all know from the Flintstones, like, the animals are their appliances. Like, you've got Dino, and I think maybe the Rubbles have got like a pet saber-toothed tiger, but like the pets are unusual in this world. Largely they are appliances. Like, so they go to the tar pit or the Home Depot, the Home Depot equivalent.
Depot, that's what it was. Bone Depot. Okay, yeah.
They got to buy the animal appliances. They buy Power Goat, and Power Goat just keeps saying, Power Goat!
Power Goat 3000! Power Goat!
It's my favorite Kaiju Max character. I love Power Goat.
Right. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because like this book reminds me a lot of Kaiju Max, just in that, like, jokes everywhere, references everywhere, visual gags here, visual gags there. But yeah, even the way it deals with the appliances and how they kind of have their society going on at the house here. Ones that are kept in the closet versus ones that are kept in the house or in the garage. What their feelings are like. It absolutely reminded me of Kaiju Max.
Yeah. You go to the store, Fred's like, can I get a bag of appliance chow, please? Yep. This is very funny. And like,
they call each other appliance as the like stand-in for the N-word. Like, what's up, appliance? Right?
Yeah. That's their group name. They hate Dino. They don't understand Dino. He is not part of the club. He is not an appliance. And so when it's nighttime or when the whole family's out of the house, you see the animals like speak for themselves. They have this like Toy Story moment where they like come to life, and the vacuum cleaner is this really sweet little purple elephant who like gets put in the closet and he can't open the door by himself. So like Fred's armadillo bowling ball like uncurls at night and opens the door, and bowling ball and vacuum are friends.
And the most emotional stories in this book is between bowling ball and vacuum.
Right. And vacuum's like, do you know any jokes? And bowling ball's like, no. And he's like, okay. I've heard that jokes exist, and I really want to hear one someday. I think this is what friends talk to each other about.
Which I think is a reference to The Office, because they make that joke in the Office. Michael Scott is like, oh, I love inside jokes. I can't wait to be a part of one day, right? and like that's what they do here. Is like, man, I can't wait to just know a joke.
Right. Well, when you live in a closet, there aren't jokes in a closet. He doesn't get to go out. You know, he's a vacuum, so he doesn't know these things. And then in the issue when cinema exists suddenly, this is one of my favorite gags in the whole series. Is like Fred, it's like a 1-page gag in like the middle of a story where Fred calls Barney and he's like, Barney, I heard that there's one of these new movies where you see women bare it all. And he's like, no, Barney calls him about it. And Fred's like, Barney, you and I are married men. And he's like, but aren't you curious? Don't you want to see? So they put on these trench coats and they huddle in and they go to the theater to go see Shale Magnolias instead of Steel Magnolias. And the next day they're like talking to the other guys around like the lunch table at work. And they're like, then these women, you know, they got so much issues, so much baggage. And then all the barriers to communication come down. And then Barney says, they're all coming down. Like they're talking about it like it is porn. And it's just for a society where women are like, it's prehistoric times. Everybody is naked or like barely wearing anything. So it is the emotional nudity of Steel Magnolias that really gets to them. Yeah. And they're like, we are horned up for honesty and communication. And you see them get more friends and they go back still like huddled up in the pervert trench coats to go see like the bridges of Mattistone County, the Joy Rock Club. And I think Vacuum sneaks out and goes to one of these because he's heard Fred talking about it. And then they make him like the employees at the theater think, oh, this is our vacuum. Time to vacuum the theater floor. And he's like, theater floor? No! And that kills him. He vacuums up a movie theater carpet and then he dies.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's such a classic gag. Movie theater carpet, gross. It's so hackneyed. I don't, it is pervasive to this day. Everybody knows this thing. So to have this very dumb old joke combined with a truly tragic supporting character death, no, this thing is so bad it will kill you. And the fact that it kills you is very funny and very sad. And then so he comes home and he's sick. He doesn't die right away. Like he dies in the night. And Fred goes out bowling. And the armadillo bowling ball finally hears a joke for the first time. And it's Barney's telling Fred, what does a pirate say when what does a pirate say on his 80th birthday? Gee, I don't know, Barn. What does he say? Aye, matey. And then the armadillo's like, oh, that's a joke. That's the joke thing Vacuum talks about. When I get home, I'm going to tell Vacuum the joke, his first ever joke. And he gets home and Vacuum is dead. And Wilma's like, oh, the vacuum cleaner died. I don't know what happened. Oh, gee, I'm sorry to see it go. Like it's this sort of like it is an animal, but it is also an object. And so she's in this weird like middle place in her grief. Like, I guess we put him in the trash can and I guess we'll get a new one at some point. And they end up pulling the shop vac out of the garage, which is just the same little purple elephant, but it's got like a different, it's like a handle on its back. And so shop vac is just like vacuum generation 2. And Armadillo's like, do you want to be friends with me? Do you want to hear a joke?
Yeah, it's so sweet. It's so emotional.
Yes.
It's such a gut punch. But it's just like, yeah, like it's wild to me how quickly the needle can swing back and forth in this book of like joke, emotional thing, sharp criticism, poignant statement, like back to just some completely ridiculous joke. Yeah, and it's just like this whole experience was just fun. It was amazing. It was like it's a good 12 issue. It's a good graphic novel.
Yes.
It's so like just as a complete package. Like I'm glad they made this, and I'm glad that they stopped with this. I know I kind of mentioned. I think if they kept it going, there is a way to do it, but the way that they made this book, I don't think works for a longer series. But I'm glad that like this is what they chose to do, and that's it. It's just these 12 issues, and that's it. It works. It works so well.
It's so absolutely solid. It's really funny. It's touching. It looks so good. Everything's really well designed. There's a lot of thought put into it. I love Pebble's like rock and roll t-shirts for the Stone Age. Like I love her Nick Caveman shirt.
Yep.
I love Nick Cave. That felt like a personal treat for me. I love when it's Fred's birthday and she gives him a record from T-Rex, which is just still T-Rex.
Still just T-Rex, which is great.
And then the statue Barney makes of him and Fred as best friends, where they're just like, got their arms around each other, just like celebrating 20 years of being best friends. And they're just all buff. They look like handsome Squidward. It's so funny. Not that they aren't buff to begin with. Everybody in this book is like a unit. Fred's thighs are like tree trunks. They're all massive, but the statue of them is like this pretty boy buff. Like I said, handsome
literally
Squidward.
Chiseled. They're literally chiseled, right? Yeah, like they are big, like you said, but they are that like functional muscle. They're not where they're not really going for definition. They're just kind of big. And then these statues are just like beach body muscle competition like stuff. They're just being like, man, what great friends we are. And that was the thing, like when you earlier on when you were talking about the book examining Fred as just a nice guy, or not like not asking the question but just stating it. I think this is one of the best examples. Yeah. Like he gets this statue for his birthday and he just kind of thinks it's ugly. Like he actually does not like the statue, but like it's a gift from his best friend, and so he wants to please his best friend and just has this thing, and like he looks out the window and sees Fred, and then you know they're just like waving at each other, like, hey neighbor. I love that whenever they talk about the statue, he looks out the window at the statue in his front lawn, and then across the yard, like Barney's waving at him out the window, like permanently. Every time he sees a statue, there's Barney. Hey Fred, I'm still here. Hi neighbor. It's me, Barney, your best friend. Yeah, but that's when the like neighborhood hipster, the people gentrifying the neighborhood come up, and they're just like, hey, so right off the bat, we want you to know this isn't about your lifestyle, but this statue is like kind of bothering other people, and it's just kind of like it's depreciating our value of the property that we own. We can't Airbnb this out at the rates that we want because of this statue. So can you get rid of it? And he's just like, look, guys, let me be the first to let you know that I also don't like this statue. Yes. But my friend gave it to me, and that means I cannot get rid. Like, that's just what a good guy. Like, what a good friend. Like, to a fault. Just like, I hate this statue, but I'm keeping it because my friend gave it to me, and I love my friend. Like, what a good guy. What a good guy.
I do have Rinfield tickets, so I want to
Yes.
start heading towards the finish line. Do you have any other final thoughts on the Flintstones?
The last thing I will say is actually how the book starts. With a joke in modern day times, just like, man, we have this caveman here at the museum. I bet he was some important person, all that stuff. And then you find out in issue 1 that he's one of those Cro-Magnon people that come to work, and they don't understand society. They're not as educated and all that stuff, and he ends up falling in this ice pit trying to kill a mammoth at Mr. Slate's request, and the thing he got as payment was his necklace, his like shiny necklace, which is the thing they think that makes him important. He was just a no one, like it's just,
and they remember him, but in the future,
no
who knows
else.
if they know who Mr. Slate is.
Exactly. So yeah, that's all I have to say on the Flintstones. Good book. Go check it out.
Absolutely. I already got Bingo open. I was able to cross off a couple things. I was able to cross off fake fast food brand.
Yes.
Hiding in a closet. I also gave myself nosy neighbor, even though Fred and Barney are best friends. I mean, it is kind of nosy to make a full statue of somebody as a surprise for their birthday. You think I get nosy neighbor here for that?
Wait,
just for how involved everybody is in each other's lives in this story. Like,
where is nosy neighbor on your thing? Do we?
It is
seeing it on your
rightmost row, right column, second up from the bottom.
Oh. Okay, I was looking at the white ones to be like, oh, you have it marked, but you already.
I already filled it in.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. That's why I was like, I can't find nosy neighbor.
Question for you: does Philip the Turtle count as butler? He's the butler archetype for sure.
I don't, because it's not his home. It's like his assistant. It's more so like, I don't want to say secretary, because I think he also has a secretary. But
I think Philip is just at his house. I don't think Philip goes to the office with Mr. Slate.
I guess it's hard to tell one rock wall from the other. I never saw him as a butler, but I can see the argument. I don't know.
If you want to save it for later for the classic man in a black suit, I'll save butler for like the penny worth.
If he had on like a little fake like suit and tie to make him look the part, then
missing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
No bow tie, no butler.
So you wrote down hiding in a closet. I have that one too. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that guy.
Even though it is,
as well.
The vacuum cleaner it's not hiding. That's just where he lives, but stuck in closet.
That's fine too. Yeah. Dealing with a pet, treasure map, awkward hand touch. No. Driving the bus. No. Fake fast food name. Yep. We got that. I think that's, the diary, the Great Gazooza reports aren't really diary entries.
No.
So I think that's kind of it for me. Unfortunately, we didn't realize my own strength, because Bam Bam definitely realizes his own strength.
Right, he's 14 now. He knows.
Yeah. I think that's kind of it. Hiding in a closet, fake fast food, nosy neighbor, all that good stuff. Okay, cool. That's our bingo update. We're getting close. You actually have one now. I have one now. Bingo on Melissa's side. That's the first bingo of the year.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good stuff.
We don't have to read them off. We can do that another week.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into recommendations. Melissa, what would you recommend for people who enjoyed this?
as a nice cycle. The Flintstones, the first primetime animated sitcom, informed The Simpsons. And I feel like The Simpsons loops back around and informs this Flintstones comic a lot. This feels very Simpsons. You've got the boss figure, you've got the church scenes, like structurally it's very Simpsonic. You've got a local wacky scientist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a great one.
Yeah, absolutely The Simpsons. Also, I think the approach of taking current day social problems and putting them in an entirely different time period, even if it is an opposite time period, is very Futurama as well. Can never go wrong with some Simpsons and Futurama.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you can also kind of throw the Jetsons in there. Like, it's just the flip of the Flintstones of like, what if they're not prehistoric, but they're in the future? So yeah, I think absolutely with that stuff.
A handful of years ago, I did revisit the live action Flintstones movie from the 90s. And I gotta say, production design wise, I don't think that movie can be better than what it is. Like costumes, sets, props. I don't know if I can speak too much to the quality of the movie as a whole, but in terms of the visuals of the thing, of translating the cartoon and putting Bedrock, it on screen, right, unimpeachable. I think the movie's like really neat to look back on in that regard, just what they were able to do artistically there. Yeah. I would also recommend the 90s Brady Bunch movie, where the Brady Bunch still exists in the 90s as if it was like 1972, and they stick out like sore thumbs, but they continue to live their lifestyle and love each other and try and spread that love to the cynical 90s.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Very funny.
Earlier on in the podcast, we mentioned Kaiju Max. We have covered all of the Kaiju Max comics here on the review show on 3 separate episodes, because there's 6 volumes total. There's 6 volumes total. The first one, when we covered volumes 1 through 2, was on episode 224. If you guys want to go check that one out, that is a like prison story, but it's all kaiju. It's giant monsters and the politics within the prison, the stuff that the guards get up to, the stuff the inmates get up to. But yeah, if you are a fan of kaiju movies or mech movies, if you're a fan of like anime, like all that stuff, like that, it's in there, but it is the same kind of like critiques and all of that good stuff that the Flintstones have here in this one. So I think those are some good recommendations to go check out. Melissa, it is your turn to pitch what we do this next week. So what are the options? What do you got?
So the next episode we record of the review show will release on the 5-year anniversary of the release date of my first review show episode.
There you go.
After the Whatnauts was converted into the review show, you did a couple episodes by yourself, kind of figuring things out after a past co-host departed for other things.
Just to keep things moving along.
Yeah. You did a couple by yourself, and then I came in on episode 4, and I've just never left.
Good.
I was the one-off guest host who just stuck around, and I'm still here 5 years later. So because this is a personal milestone, I wanted to do something special. A movie that I think that I know you and I both like. A movie we have referenced, we have talked about. I've always wanted us to cover it. It's always felt special to me in that I've wanted to do it for like an anniversary or a 100th or 200th episode or whatever. But I'm like, I don't think this is significant to anybody else but you and me. I don't know if this is going to be like celebration worthy to a single other party. So I'm like, for my 5-year anniversary, I am picking this movie. I'm not pitching you things. I am just announcing that we are doing this. And I know you won't have any complaints about it. I really want us to dig into this movie. This is a cult classic of our generation. or at least it was when it came out. And I really want to look at what makes this movie special. Why does it continue to work on us? And do you think it still continues to work on society as a whole? Is this movie still a cult classic today? And that movie is Napoleon Dynamite.
Hell yeah.
Frickin' sweet. For next week, I decree Napoleon Dynamite.
Hell yeah, that sounds fantastic. I loved this movie when it came out. I watched it in theaters, I think. So many good memories quoting this. We still quote it all the time.
Yes.
Good stuff. That will be fun. That's what we'll do for episode 251. Good stuff. I was kind of imagining we'd like go back to Pokemon stuff because we had the original 250, but then Mew was 251, right? Or no?
150.
Man, 151.
We talked about.
I screwed it up.
I'm
a terrible 90s kid.
We talked about Pokemon, the first movie, for episode 150.
Yeah, we did. I don't know. I'm all messed up in the brain. I haven't eaten yet, so
go eat.
That's what I'm gonna do. Melissa, you're about to head to the movies to go see Renfield, so we will wrap things up right there. Where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WilkyWit. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities. This is a show I co-host with my brother Jams, where we talk about weird old kid shows you feel like only you remember. But sometimes we do an episode on a very popular show. We call those Saturday Morning Giants. And last year, to mark his birth, we did do an episode about the Jetsons. So if you want more Flintstones adjacent type discussion, we did an episode talking about one episode of the original 60s run of the Jetsons and an episode of the 80s revival of the Jetsons to mark 2022, the year of George Jetson's birth.
Good stuff. If you guys want to follow me, I am at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. I will put the first Kaiju Max stuff that we did right over there. Go check that one out because that's a great book too. This has been number 250 of the Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.